Tyrannosaurus rex versus Giganotosaurus. Who would win in a fight between these two apex dinosaurs? Both of these creatures are among the heaviest theropods to ever roam the earth. They were both the pinnacle of their lineage, but lived during different time eras in different regions. But who would come out victorious in a fight? Well, watch to the end to find out, since this is gonna be a very interesting video. Size and physique. Both the T.rex and Giganotosaurus were around the same size, but lived in different eras during different times. The famous Tyrannosaurus lived in the open forests of North America towards the end of the Late Cretaceous. It hunted and ate medium to large-sized herbivores like hadrosaurs and ceratopsians. And yes, the T.rex was an opportunistic predator that actively hunted other creatures and scavenged other carcasses. Teeth marks have been found on Edmontosaurus and Triceratops remains that show signs of healing after an attack. This likely means that the Tyrannosaurus actively hunted other dinosaurs. The T.rex was one of the largest theropods to ever exist. A typical adult individual could grow around 40 feet long, 13 feet tall at the hip, and weighed in between 7 to 9 tons. The Giganotosaurus carolinii, or also known as the giant southern lizard, was a massive theropod dinosaur rivaling the T.rex in size. It lived in South America, specifically in Argentina during the beginning of the Late Cretaceous, around 30 million years before the T.rex walked the earth. The Giga hunted and ate large-sized herbivores and sauropods. Current estimates for size put the Giganotosaurus near the top end of the theropod list. A typical mature individual could grow around 43 feet long, 13 feet tall at the hip, and weighed between 7 to 9 tons. So, the T.rex and Giganotosaurus would be around the same size, with the Giga having an overall length advantage, while the T.rex slightly edges out the Giga when concerning average weight. However, just because they were around the same size does not mean that they had the same body structure. The Tyrannosaurus would have a bulkier build and a more robust physique compared to the giant southern lizard. On the other hand, the Giganotosaurus would have a more streamlined and leaner build, with its hips being wider than the tyrant lizards. This would make the Giganotosaurus a faster and more agile creature, while the T.rex would have a bulkier and more powerful build. So, when concerning which theropod has a more tanky physique, I would say the T.rex would win in this aspect. It overall has a weight advantage, along with being a bit heftier. However, would having a slight weight advantage really be more important than quickness and dexterity? That brings me up to my second point, which is speed and agility. The Tyrannosaurus was built for power due to its prey developing armor. This meant that the T.rex was likely not as fast as previously thought. Scientists say that the tyrant lizard could sprint around 15 to 20 miles per hour in short bursts. Anything more than that could severely damage or break the leg and foot of the T.rex due to the immense pressure. The Giganotosaurus, on the other hand, could move a lot faster due to its more streamlined body shape and the physique of its legs and hips. The rotational movement of its hips and legs would also be greater than that of the T.rex, making it more agile and swift in its movements. This would allow the Giga to maneuver around easier in fights. So, when concerning the topic of speed and agility, the Giganotosaurus would win this aspect. However, does being more maneuverable really matter in a fight compared to awareness and perception? That brings me up to my third point, which is intelligence and senses. The T.rex was one of the most evolved and intelligent theropods to ever exist. The brain casing on the T.rex was larger than the Giganotosaurus due to its Tyrannosaurus lineage, its way of life, and it being around 30 million years more evolved than the Giga. The Tyrannosaurus also had front-facing binocular vision, which was far superior to the Giga's eyesight, in which the eyes were located on the side of its head. This meant that the giant southern lizard's depth perception and field of vision were more primitive and worse than the tyrant lizards. Also, the Giganotosaurus would be nearly blind to front-facing objects, making it have to swing its head side to side in order to analyze its environment. So, when concerning the aspect of intelligence and awareness, the more evolved theropod, that being the Tyrannosaurus, would have an advantage. Now, let's move on to the final aspect, which is weaponry and fighting experience. Both the Tyrannosaurus and Giganotosaurus were the apex predators of their environment. They both hunted large herbivores, but completely different creatures. The T.rex preyed on armored dinosaurs like the Ankylosaurus and Triceratops, thus the need for a large skull and bone-crushing bite. The Tyrannosaurus rex means king of the tyrant lizards for a good reason. It had a massive skull that could grow around 5 feet in length in mature individuals. Its skull was also more robust than the Gigas, giving it a more powerful bite force. The Tyrannosaurus had one of the strongest bites out of any land carnivore, which was capable of producing up to 12,000 psi. Just for reference, that's strong enough to explode human bones. Inside its jaws were huge, banana-sized serrated teeth that assisted the T-rex in crushing and piercing through its prey's body. The teeth on the T-rex were duller and more conical compared to the Giga and other theropods, which further proves that its bite was aimed towards crushing. The tyrant lizard's robust skull could also be used to ram and headbutt its opponent when it gets in range. On the other hand, the Giganotosaurus hunted large sauropods and likely other large herbivorous dinosaurs during its reign. Its skull would have likely grown around 5 feet 2 inches long on adult individuals, making the skull larger than the T-rex's. Its jaws housed knife-like teeth that were flat, sharp, and serrated. This helped the Giga rip chunks of flesh from its prey, causing heavy blood loss and severe tissue damage. The giant southern lizard is estimated to have a bite force of up to 8,000 psi, which is considerably weaker than the T-rex's. However, the muscles attached to the skull of the Giganotosaurus allowed this beast to bite down relatively fast compared to the Tyrannosaurus's heavy, strong bite. This would allow the Giga to bite much quicker than the T-rex. It likely bit its prey repeatedly with its sharp teeth to dismember and cause heavy blood loss, unlike the tyrant lizard, who would produce a heavy bone-crushing bite to a single limb. The Giganotosaurus's jaws would also be able to open up wider than the T-rex's. Also, the neck of the giant southern lizard would be shorter and less robust than the T-rex's, making it a smaller and more difficult object to clamp onto. And just remember, having a stronger bite force does not necessarily mean your bite is superior. So, in terms of who has better weaponry and fighting experience, I think they both would be equal in this aspect, since their killing techniques are different but effective in their own right. However, since I do not like to leave a topic ambiguous, I think the Giganotosaurus would have superior weaponry, while the Tyrannosaurus would have better fighting knowledge. So, I would have to award them both a point. Alright, we have our stats. So, who would win in a fight between a T-rex and a Giganotosaurus? Let's say this battle takes place on an open field. This would undoubtedly be a very close fight, and the winner would likely become severely wounded in the process. But, I would say the T-rex would win 55% of the time. On average, it was a more robust and evolved creature than the Giganotosaurus. The better front-facing vision would give it a large advantage since it could see directly in front of it, unlike the Giga. The Tyrannosaurus also had a much more powerful bite force, which would overall cause more crippling damage to the skeleton of the Giga. Meanwhile, the giant southern lizard would inflict deep flesh wounds, which would take longer to kill. Overall, the T-rex is a more powerful and advanced theropod, which its superior intelligence, awareness, sturdiness, and superior bite force would lead it to victory more often than not.